Well, welcome everybody to a new episode of Let's Set the Tone. Um, it wouldn't be a banter and babble production if there wasn't constantly some form of issues going on. So I don't know what's going on with EV Mux today. I can't get videos of transition. We couldn't go live properly, but it is what it is. There's no sense of getting all worked up over it because that's the life of a streamer of some sort, right? Content creation. So, but welcome back. It's been quite a minute since I've had an opportunity to do an actual hot seat Let's Set the Tone. So I'm very excited to be able to do that. Super excited actually because a special guest that I have on today has been just somebody over the few years I've gotten to know pretty well, a long distance friend. I love building relationships with people, but this is definitely somebody who has been kind of ingrained into the B&B culture for kind of a while here. So without further ado, I am going to, of course, bring on none other than El Blanco here. So we're going to get him on here shortly. And there he is, the one and only El Blanco. Welcome, sir.
I know what to do
How
with
are
my
you doing?
hands. Just one of these. No.
Yeah. Just yeah. There was it with the old the superstar where you put them
Oh
in,
yeah.
and then smell them. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I heard so
Superstar.
much stuff. That was a mistake to do, especially after work this morning.
I
That
can
was a
only
horrible
imagine.
idea.
I can only imagine, and I appreciate that you're still able to do this. I know we were not sure if we're going to be able to do this today. You work crazy, weird hours sometimes, so sleep is
Yeah.
definitely very important for you. So, once you're done with this, I'm sure you'll be able to get a good nap in, hopefully, and some sleep for your crazy schedule coming up here. But I do appreciate it. Good to see you, my friend. How you been? How you doing?
Oh, I've been peachy, other than my body constantly reminding me that, I'm getting to that age where it's just falling
Yep.
apart.
Yeah, I feel that every day. So El Blanco, I'm gonna start with that here. So that's clearly, is that like your online handle? I mean, I'm guessing somewhere in there that might be kind of like my fanboy tone moniker.
Yeah, it started off with a idea for a superhero I had. Like, it was that whole phase of wanting to get into comic books, and it was an idea I had of a guy that was essentially a Hispanic character who didn't look Hispanic. He looked like like a white guy. And when he activated his powers, they were mainly shadow based, or
Okay.
what looked like shadows. And his skin would almost become transparent, where it would glow. So it looked kind of weird. It was kind of like I was going off of like a reverse uh solar eclipse. Or it's like
Okay.
black in the middle, and then it's got like the light on the outside. It was going something like that. I actually had created the character in City Heroes first time I played it, and it just evolved from there. I used I think it was the Shadow Mesma or Melee abilities, which was essentially the
Yeah.
idea I was going for.
Yeah. Dude, that I could talk City of Heroes for a long time. Could talk that for a long time. Actually, you know what? You're gonna want to flick your camera on and off. It looks like you did freeze there.
That is awesome.
Hey, I
All
told
right.
you know it is. I mean, that's how this works here at B&B. It's how it works.
Oh
While you're
yeah.
doing that, getting your camera, see if you get that to reset there. Collector, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. You
Cool.
definitely we outside, my friend.
That is a lovely picture to get frozen on.
Hey, we're going with it though. Ah, what up, dude? 79 be able to pop in for a minute there. What's happening? That's the
Oh,
actual banter
hoy,
and Bab account.
folks.
Good to see you, brother.
Oh,
We're
what
gonna work
in
through it. Yeah.
God's name
So, like I
happened
said,
here?
we had an issue going live here. I don't know what the heck is going on. We're definitely gonna get it here. We're gonna pause for a
Did
minute
this
though
work?
because
Oh,
he's
there we
he's
go.
got some things going on here. I
Is
think we
that
got.
it?
Do we got you? Do we got you back?
One,
We got you
two,
back.
1, 2.
We got you back.
Testicles,
Okay, cool.
testicles, 1, 2, testicles. I have not
Perfect.
one but two.
Right. Some of us have one. If you fall and rip one off, we don't want to do that
Right.
though. But yeah, so City of Heroes. So that's where you first use that. See, man, that's cool. I like how the name El Blanco has a lot of thought behind it as well too. That's great. I like that, and it makes me think of is that Mr. Negative or something like that? And
Yeah, pretty much something like that. Like how he
okay,
he gets black
yeah,
with the white outlines, but
yeah,
pictured
yeah,
it
yeah.
like. picture of the Human Torch was on black and white, and instead of being all red, he was like white, and then it was more of a shadow, like
Yeah,
smoke almost effect on him, but
yeah.
pretty much the same way it was in City of Heroes.
Ah, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, and dude, I highly underrated game. I always wish and hope.
Yeah,
I know I it was the same way with Defiance. I still haven't had time to play that. I keep saying that I want these old games to come back and make research. I haven't been playing games at all. I ain't got no time. But I digress. Let me ask this. So with El Blanco, so of course I know your real name, but do you have any other AKAs you've gone by, or any other nicknames or anything in the past?
uh well, my mom loves calling me Sangano, which essentially just means idiot or hardhead in Spanish. So that's like a usual nickname.
Right, right, right. Way to go, mom. That's great.
And
Okay,
then I
okay.
got I got the usual stuff, which I had the Hobo Jesus one that was running for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm in a Discord with some coworkers from FedEx, and on there they switched my name to FedEx Jesus,
There
which
you
is funny as hell because every time they're having issues and they send me over
go.
to a line or somewhere to help, they're like, "Oh, Jesus is here to help! Thank God!"
That's fucking great. And of course, I started calling you Claus after Umbrella Academy
Right.
for a hot minute too.
Great
So
character, great
yeah,
character.
great character. I mean, who else for me in that series would I want to be named after or called after? Right? Like, to be
Right.
honest, awesome character. So that's
I'm
great.
s-
So we got some AKs. Good. Okay. Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out how to get his that hippie outfit he had, the commune one, and what was it, the
You need
second
to
or
straight
third
up
season?
Yeah, yeah. The like the yeah, because it really made him look like Jesus. Right. You need to figure that out. You need
Right.
to figure that out.
Get one of those hoverboards and then just put a cushion on it and just glide
Yeah.
around and it just hey.
Fucking right, man. Fucking right. Fucking right. So for us, like we met originally, somehow I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was like basically from Alora's stream. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought so. I thought
Yep.
so. And then that progressed into, because this is old school Mixer days. So prior to Mixer and that, I guess the question I have for you is, how did you get into either watching streaming on Mixer or streaming in general? Was that kind of like your first jump into that, or were you already kind of into that? Because I feel like for me, I didn't watch game streams until honestly I started having friends on Mixer, and then I kind of jumped into it then, and then it kind of grew from there for a while. So, what did that look like for you?
It started way back when. I want to say it was probably thanks to Warframe. I had when that first came out and I was keeping track of it and I had tried it on the PS3 when it first launched. I know they were saying some stuff about like Twitch and then like the whole drops and all that stuff and the dev
Yeah.
streams. So I watched some of the videos on YouTube and I decided one day just to create a Twitch account to catch a dev stream live. And I was like, oh, this ain't that bad. And I just watched a few on there. I didn't really watch anybody else playing any games or anything. It was mainly just for their Warframe dev streams.
Okay.
And then after a while, with the whole like mixer stuff popping up on Xbox, I just one day I was like, you know what? Let me actually watch one of these streams. It's not a dev stream, and I just browsed through it, and then I found that pasty Brit on there, and like they say, the rest is history.
That's crazy, man. And I remember like Peak Mixer too, like Peak Mixer, and she was one of the bigger Brit streamers. I mean, I knew a few that were like super that blew up, right? But she definitely was one of the, because she was partnered, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was partnered, and then they did the gems or whatever, the emerald or what was
Oh
that
yeah,
called?
the
Emblems or something,
sound
or
like Sparks or
yeah, they
I
started
think
doing
there
it
was
out.
two of them. I think it was like the free ones was Sparks and then like
Yup,
Embers. That was the paid
Embers,
one.
that's what it was. And I was selected for early Embers to get, because back then, how of course, I started, in 2018 ish or whatever, game streaming on Mixer, and that summer, and um, that's what it was the Embers is what got me some eyes on me, and it was like Forza Horizon or whatever, which one, the four maybe or whatever, that was so huge. I want
Oh
to say it came
yeah,
out, and that
everybody was doing
everybody was
that
playing,
one.
yeah, and it was like 2 a.m. my time, and Alora, it was late, and she jumped into my stream and hosted or whatever, and brought like 70 some stinking people in. because she was looking around, and then she jumped in, and I happened to have, I don't remember who it was that I had as a mod in there, and we were all like, we were chill. I was drinking, probably. We were listening to music. We were having a good old time, and she really liked our vibe. I think that's I don't know if that's when I met you directly. It might have been Cuddles first. That's might have been when that started. But then yeah, it was all. So I started watching her more and getting to know everybody because you were a mod for her, weren't you?
Yeah, which that was a funny story. 'Cause I think I was only in her stream for like less than a year, and I essentially got modded because none of the other mods were available. So she
Oh
sent me a message. She's like, "I really need your help," and like modded
damn!
me. And I used to bug some people. I was like, I got modded against my will, but
Right,
like
right, right,
Carmen
right.
said, respect my authority.
That's right. That's right. That's great. Yeah. And then I remember jumping in her streams, and your name was one that was frequently in there and seeing. So cool. That's I should have known it was going to be Warframe. That was going to be the way you got into streaming. I'm not surprised by that, but
Yeah.
always slinging. So all right. So to kind of get more into you, so we talked recently about this, and I just kind of wanted to dive into it a little bit because I do find it interesting because I've been born and raised and grown up in the same state, same area, fucking Midwest for life, right? So, but you yourself, you were you born in Puerto Rico?
I was actually born here in the States, and my parents had sent me with my brothers to live for a while with our
That's right.
grandparents in
Okay.
Puerto Rico. So that was an on and off thing. My older brother and I were actually there for the longest, and I was pretty much up until I want to say, a month before my sixth birthday. I spent like 80% of my life in Puerto Rico,
Wow.
and then I just came over here. It made things easier for my parents since
Hmm.
they had like three boys back to back, just so my grandparents could help raise. They would like come over here and then go over there, but after a while, I guess they found it was better to
Hmm.
just have my brother and I over there. So we had our own room and everything. He even went to school. I think he did first and second grade, or he started second grade there. I was gonna start school, but then we got sent back over here, and then I started school over here. Which is it's funny because growing up, I remember speaking Spanish and English, but then I come to find out from my parents that when I had came back, I knew almost no English. So I was like, it's crazy how your mind can play tricks on you like that.
Right, right. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Dang. And so you were kind of back and forth a little bit there. Who was more strict, your grandparents or your parents?
Um, that that was actually kind of hard because at times, because my grandparents obviously, they were the older generation, so they were a bit
Right.
stricter, but then they were also, grandparents, so they were strict to a point, and then they were more relaxed to a point. So it's hard. At times they were stricter than my parents. At times they were more relaxed than my parents. Like
Okay.
it's really hard to gauge who was more
Good mix.
strict.
Okay. Good,
Yeah,
good, good. Because I always think like when I was growing up, my parents worked, a lot, so I was at my grandparents a lot, and my grandparents were like pretty lax, like, and I didn't do anything out of control too often either, but I always felt like, it was definitely like one of those things where a lot of times you hear grandparents are sometimes the the most like lax compared to, and it was for me, that was at least my
yeah.
experience. So, but how big is your family overall? Do you have a large family, or is it a little bit medium, smaller?
My mom's parents had four boys, three girls. My dad had it was just him and his sister. But then he
Okay.
had they both had a lot of cousins. Like it would get to the point where growing up we had so many people over that I couldn't remember everybody. And then it got worse as a teenager walking
Hmm.
from school or home from school or just to like a friend's house or something. I get the numerous cars just driving by, honking and waving at me, and I'm like, who the hell was that? And then I'm sitting there, and my mom's like, oh, like Ruby saw you or who died or something. I'm like, who? They're like, my cousin, the one that was in Jersey, and I'm like, oh. I haven't seen that person in like 10 years, so that's why I didn't know.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, yeah, I can kind of relate to that too. It's weird. My family is like, and I don't know if a lot of families are like this, but like my mom's like first cousins have their kids, and it's like those end up being my third cousins because her first cousins are my second cousins. However, it rolls like that.
Yeah,
And
that's
parts
always
of my
confusing.
family in that extended, like my cousins now have kids and some of their cousins have kids, and some of these we still get together on in summertime like for like a reunion. I know that's a thing, but like it's crazy to me to think that our family and some families actually can still kind of do that, and it gets so you get so far away removed, like it's like
Yeah.
at that point it's hard to keep track of everybody, like and things of that nature as well. So I was just kind of wondering if you kind of being that you kind of had two places of origin, like if you had a big family like that as well too. So never really had people honking by and driving and not knowing who it was, like it was a cousin or anything like that or some family member, but I also lived out in the sticks,
Hmm.
so probably different experience. So for you then, you know, one of the things, because I love that that you're at least seemingly pretty comfortable talking about your background there. Um, but you've talked about representation pretty heavily in the past in some of our conversations, and talking just how representation in the media and things like that nature. So, what was it like for you when you first learned about Miles Morales being a character with some Puerto Rican background descent? Was that like a big deal for you?
Yeah, that was pretty cool because at the time I remember the only one I can remember off the top of my head was, I think, Vibe was the only Hispanic character that I can remember. I know Marvel had a bit. They had, was it Sunspot and
Oh yeah,
some other
Sunspot.
ones, but like a lot of them just like fell just to like B role characters and
Yeah.
never really important. And then when you had the Ultimate Universe and Peter died, and then Miles popped up, and he ended being the main Spider-Man, and you come to find out that he, his mother was Puerto Rican and he was mixed. That was pretty cool as hell.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
love all the little Easter eggs they had put in the Spider-Man, like all the little cultural stuff they had in there, like the little wooden coquille on the toilet in the bathroom, and then his suit. That was a nice touch.
Yeah. 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 That's a man. As somebody who grew up loving Spider-Man and being still one of my favorite all-time like superheroes, I fucking love Miles Morales and his like I didn't like because in the 2000s I didn't read a lot of comics until later on, I guess, and now I suppose, so I was as aware as I can be at that point, right? But when the Spider-Man games hit on Sony PlayStation and like instantly they were like, "Oh, you're gonna be able to be a Miles Morales as well too." I'm like, "Oh shit, this is fucking awesome! Like this is great, right?" And then like his game, like you said, like being able to add like a lot of the cultural stuff because it wasn't just like they were like putting the skin on it. You're playing Miles Morales. No, they dove really into
Yeah.
some of that background stuff, and I'm a history major at one point in my life, so like anything like that, it's like huge for me to like learn those sort of things. So yeah, that is very awesome. I'm glad that your perspective can share those sort of things too. So outside of Miles though being really excited at that type of background, is there any other characters in pop culture that got you excited or that you're always just a huge fan of because they have those similar backgrounds?
Um, Probably just like a few of them. I'm spacing on some off the top of my head. Only oh my god, what's her name? Oh my god, Sesame Street. I can't remember the human chick, but then you got the little pink one,
Yup.
Rosario.
Yup.
You got those.
Yup.
Mainly, I decided that's the only one that's popping up to my head because for a while, my youngest sister, when she would get out of daycare, we watch Sesame. It was that whole era of Zaboomafoo, Sesame
Yeah,
Street, and like all that stuff.
that's
Which
great.
is it's funny 'cause I know when they came back with the Wild Kratts cartoon from the brothers from Zaboomafoo, they had a Hispanic character on there, which was actually pretty cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I know it's like it's tough these days because there's and we could have a long conversation about the toxicity in the world, but you know, um it's great for me. Like I love to see like all these different background because like I'm learning stuff, right? Like that's important to me. Like learning
Yeah,
about people, learning about cultures and stuff like that. So like I love seeing like a lot of different types of characters with different backgrounds and things like that. And you bring up Sesame Street. That's just such a great example of something like I grew up as a kid loving that, still have a lot of love for it, even though I don't watch it. Some days I probably should, right? For some perspective. But it's great to hear things like that. Like 20 some plus years after that or whatever it is that grew up watching that and loving Sesame Street, and it still affects, it still evolves, and people and children can have that kind of experience too.
oh
So
yeah.
with similar backgrounds and representation, that's awesome. So let me ask this, something I always think of, because clearly I don't get this beautiful figure from not being a foodie fan and just being a foodie in general, but what is a Puerto Rican dish that somebody like me from the Midwest have no idea how amazing it is, like that I would probably love, and maybe it's something that you love as well too?
I'm gonna go with one that I actually posted a while ago. Pinonos. It's fried plantain
Oh God, I love
wrapped around.
plantains.
It's either a fried plantain that like you take it and you wrap it around like a just a chunk of ground meat or ground beef, or you could take the plantain itself and just like cut it like a banana split, almost
Yeah.
looking like a hot dog. You dump the ground beef in there that's seasoned, and then you throw some cheese on there, let it melt. Tastes a lot better than a lot of people think. It's
Okay.
it's
Okay.
delicious as hell. I
Yeah.
actually
Okay.
I remember not the last time I was in Puerto Rico, but I think it was like 2011. It had been a few years. I want to say like 8 years since I had been back to Puerto Rico, and like the instant we got off the plane, that was like the first thing I was looking for. We went, drove over to my grandmother's house. We did some things. We drove around this one area along the highway. It's like right by the beach, and it's got a whole bunch of different storefronts and restaurants. Stopped in a restaurant, and I started stuffing them in my mouth, completely forgetting that they use toothpicks to hold them together. So I'm eating the piononos and the toothpicks at the same time. And my mother's like, "Oh my God, you got to take out the toothpicks," and I'm just like, after the fact, just like pulling them out and still trying to eat them.
Way
I
too
think I
excited.
ordered like 6 of them or something like that, and they were pretty decently sized. They were about, I want to say about like that big and about like
Wow.
that thick. I'm so amazed how they can take the plátano and flatten it without like smushing it and messing it up, and it almost keeps its shape, but it looks like a massive oval, almost like a bun.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, and first of all, that sounds awesome. My experience with plantains have always been really, really awesome as well too. Because it's weird because they have the texture of like a banana, right? Am I crazy? Like that's a it's
No,
almost
yeah,
it's kind of like a texture of a banana, and because they're not. It's almost like they have a light sweetness to it too, right? Like
yeah. If you just cook them, there's like a slight sweetness to it, but like barely notice, or not if you don't cook them, but like there's certain ways that you can cook it where it doesn't really have the sweetness to it, and it's almost like not like bitter, but a more dull version of a banana. Like if you make chips out of it, it doesn't, like you could taste the flavor from a banana chip or a plátano chip. It doesn't really. It's almost like it doesn't really taste like anything, but it does have a taste. But then when you fry the suckers, something activates in that banana with the oil there. It's sweet as
yeah,
hell and it's delicious. It almost becomes like a candy. It's like caramelized sugar in banana form almost, but healthier.
yeah, and I'm thinking about that too because we have a place locally that that sells, or well they do like the farm to table kind of technique, right? So all their food is like grown for the most part, anything, and they do plantains pretty often. I'm almost thinking now we just planted our garden, like shit, it's a missed opportunity. I wonder if I should just grow some fucking plantains too, and be able to have some here. Probably should, honestly, something different like that. I didn't think of that, but
If you can, I would recommend it. They're freaking
yeah,
delicious. Some
they're
fried
awesome. Yeah.
plátanos with scrambled eggs and a bit of cheese on top, some hot sauce. You're all set.
Phew, that's right up my alley too, because I'm a huge fan of eggs, and I have to have. hot sauce of some sort with my eggs.
Yes.
I can't and like
Yes.
even like to the effect of like growing up, a lot of times I would just scoop salsa and put it right on my fucking eggs. And I love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
Hell yeah. Hell
Right.
yeah.
So I always ask this. I feel like and it's silly to always ask, but Boston area, is that where you're at?
Um, I'm on the other side of the state.
Okay, so it's
I'm
the other side
more
of the
like,
state.
yeah, to the Jesus Christ, I just lost directional. More to the western half of it.
Okay, okay. So, uh, what would you say then is like one of the funniest things or most cliche things, either about Boston specifically or like your area? Because I feel like a lot of the area over there gets kind of lumped into some things. But I know Boston's specifically like kind of like their dialect is always really fun. You got
Yeah.
stars in Hollywood that definitely try to hide it, but when you watch a movie based in the area, it's a whole other ball game. But what is one of the like again kind of the funniest things about the area outside of maybe Dunkin' Donuts and maybe that's the big one?
Yeah, pretty much it's Dunkin' Donuts and potholes. That's that's like the biggest things we have going for us. They got like you got a lot of like I'm always surprised by the amount of celebrities that I come to find out that came out of, if not Massachusetts, came out of,
Yeah.
Springfield itself. Like for instance, Russell Crowe. I mean, not Russell Crowe. Kurt Russell was born in Springfield,
Oh shit. Okay.
and who it was Kurt Russell. I can't remember. I think John Cena was from Dorchester or something, but he went to Springfield College, which is not even a 2 minute car ride. You can walk over there.
Oh
You see
wow.
it about like 15, 20 minutes to get over there. It's always funny to like sneak into the lobby and you can see his picture from when he used to, I think it was wrestling or football, like right there, looking young as hell.
That's funny. How do you
But
even
yeah,
see him
it's
though? That's kind of weird. Is he in the photograph or
I go with what they tell me. It says John Cena on there,
right?
so
Just a
I'm
nameplate.
kind of hoping that is him. If
Right.
not, I'm gonna be severely disappointed.
Right. That have you come across any like celebrities in the area since I know it seems like it's kind of an area that
Um, Other than the occasional concert that like pops up, and I went to one downtown, and then you see like some people getting in their tour buses and stuff. I haven't seen any celebrity in person.
gotcha, not like that.
Although
Okay.
I did see in my grade school, I think I was in fifth grade. They had one of the actors from Baywatch came to talk to us about some stuff. I cannot remember
About
his name. I know
swimming?
he
The
was
safety of swimming?
oh my god, he's been in some other thing. I'm spacing so hard, but he was the cop. He was the black cop in the original Baywatch, and I'm
Oh
spacing
yeah,
so hard. I think he
yeah. I
played a
can't think of his.
doctor in Grey's Anatomy or something.
Yeah, he's played in a lot of random stuff. I actually just saw him like within the last few months too in a show randomly. I feel like too. He was always on the four wheeler, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Fuck, what's his name? Damn. I grew up watching Baywatch a lot, so plot because I love the plot.
yeah,
But yeah,
very
I
dynamic
yeah, the
plot. You
plot.
can you
Yeah,
can really get lost in that plot,
yeah, you definitely could.
especially as a
David,
young teen. Impressionable boy. It's a lot
right,
of a
right.
lot of twists and turns in those plots.
That surely is. And a lot of David Hasselhoff. Man, I can't
Mm.
remember, but I know what you're talking about. So yeah, that's pretty random then, huh? All right. Well, awesome. Well, I'm gonna, as always, I'm going to take us into another direction. So, um, now one of the things that, of course, is you wear on your sleeve pretty obviously, and one of the things I think that we always bonded over was, you're a pretty big nerd about a lot of things, like right, like that's pretty much a common theme I think with the people in my life. But as far as nerddoms or fandoms, um, can you? Is it possible? I guess can you dwindle to like a top three? And if that's too hard, if you need to do top five, that's fine. But like, what are your biggest like nerddom vices?
Ooh, let's see. I want to say obviously Superman, which I hate to admit that I've fallen off on comics a bit hard lately, just
Yeah,
because the finding the time and then the money to devote to comics. Although a lot of things are coming out in omnibuses now, and then there's the whole digital print, which as much as I love having a comic in my hand,
Hmm.
I'm getting to the point where I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of good stories coming out, and there that
Yeah.
did come out that I missed that I really want to get back into or get into, and just finally get them over with. And then there's the obvious Star Wars.
Hmm.
Yeah, gotta love that. I think Star Wars is one that is probably the main reason of why I ended up like messing around with Photoshop and all that stuff, trying to do some of the special effects. It got to the point where after we had my uncle had recorded, um it was either I honestly can't remember if he recorded or it was an actual like original copy of Star Wars where when they still had the white sabers on VHS.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
used to watch that and we thought it was so cool. That's like the only one we knew. And then we found out they had the other movies. And then when episode one came out, like we forgot about Star Wars for a while. And then we saw that and we're like, oh, that's, the one that we used to watch in the basement. And
Yeah.
like that, we seen the way they did the lightsabers and everything and the effects for that. And I came to find out when they had like that brief period where Star Wars was popping up everywhere. They had a bunch of fan sites and all these other things, and
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
they
yeah.
had oh my god, what was it? I think it was sci-fi or something. I don't know if you remember. They had where they had their yearly like Star Wars fan film thing, and George
It
Lucas
was
even
Adam
awarded it.
Films. Adam
Yes.
Films.com, because I think that's how I don't know if that's how I first found. Are you familiar with Ryan versus Dorkman at all?
Yes, yes. I was actually just talking with a coworker about him
I
because
just watched some of those recently. He works
those
for ILM.
yeah, I remember like he had posted on his site that he finally broke into the business and he had did a few scenes for the TV show Heroes. And
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome. Messing around with Photoshop and like
Yeah.
I downloaded his original tutorial of how to do a lightsaber and I
Oh
just went from
shit.
there. Yeah, and I don't know where in God's name it is, but I have a flash drive that still has that video on it.
That's crazy. That's awesome. That's and I'm not surprised by that at all. But yeah, Ryan, man, I think we all. I think that was probably, even though I was always into Star Wars, I think it was because of Ryan versus Dorkman's that got me into trying to do the same thing, which was doing the lightsaber thing. But it's actually a
Yeah.
lot of work. A lot of work.
Actually, my brother and I, we got to the point where we were those poor nerds that we would go anytime our mother or father had to go to Home Depot. We would tag along with them, and they would go to whatever aisle they needed to, and we would go to the plumbing section and just grab a whole bunch of different pipes and fixtures and stuff, and just cobble together a lightsaber
Right,
just
right.
real quick. And we're sitting there. I remember one time this older guy was like, we noticed he kept looking and like just out the corner of his eye, he's just like, and then like we're sitting there, he's like, oh, this looks good. And oh, wow, this. He's like, hey, that's that kind of looks like a lightsaber. And my brother and I both held him up. He's like, that's actually what we're going for. And he saw them both like clear because we were like had our back to him he was like, "Oh, wait." He's like, "You guys just did that." He's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Ah." He's like, "Isn't that how they did the original one with like spare parts and stuff they found?" And we were like, "Yeah, from the graphics handle from the old camera and the wiper blades and all that stuff for Vaders and like we were just every time we were there, we would try to see like how quickly we could put one together and see if
Yeah.
we could make it different, considering that it was always the same parts that we were using. We were trying to see like how different with those select parts we could make
Absolutely.
something look.
That's great. That's really fucking nerdy, and that's awesome. I'm here for it. Awesome. So we got Superman, we got Star Wars. You want to do one more, or you got maybe a top? You can get a top three in there.
Uh, let's see.
I know there's a lot, right?
Oh my god.
This is what happens when you're people like us because we like so much shit. And then you got to try and like dwindle it down to like a top three because it rotates.
Yeah,
Probably rotates as
what
well.
makes it worse is I've fallen out from a lot of things. Like I don't watch a
Hmm.
lot of things as much. Like I said, with like comics and everything.
Yeah.
Star Wars, I'm still like watching fan films. I'm still try to mess with Blender to do the lightsabers, but I want to say something more recent, which I actually pestered you a few times about it, is the Orville, which I really wish that
Oh
that series
yeah.
returned because I love the fact that when it first came out, like I doubted it a bit. I still wanted to watch it. I was one of the ones that was like, is this just gonna be Family Guy in space? But like not as serious like a live action, but still like hoo hoo,
Yeah.
version of Star Trek. And then I finally got to watch it, and the how deep they go with issues in that show. Like they've covered suicide, they've covered
Really?
yeah, they've covered sexism, they've covered transgender things. Like there's one species, the Mocklin. They're an all male race, and they were led to believe that it's like one in like half a million or some crap like that.
Yeah.
Mocklins that are born is has a possibility of being a female, and then you come to find out that it's the number's a lot higher. It's closer to like one in every 100 female. The only thing is that they have since they were an all male race and women are looked at as like defects, they have gender reassignment surgeries at birth, so they're all converted to boys. And the main Mocklin on there, Lieutenant Bordis, that's like the head security officer, I think, or
Yeah.
third in command of the ship. It's revealed that his mate was born female, but his parents had the corrective surgery for him. Like they show it's gotten so much better, and I knew how good it really was when there were actors from Star Trek that if it wasn't that they were on the show, because they had a few of them on screen as characters, and even Jonathan
No
Franks
shit.
has written and directed quite a few episodes. But Star Trek people were saying that they felt like the Orville was a more realistic version of Star Trek, because Star Trek was always more serious, and like it was always like it had some of its moments, but it was always dealing with like the grand scheme of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Orville was more like real life day to day moments and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like the main pilot, which is funny because it's the dad from Ted, the TV show.
Yeah.
He on the first episode there he's flying with Seth MacFarlane's character going to the Orville, and he's all like ooh, careful, and then he gets a little too close to his ship. He's like, oh, and he's like, wait a minute. He's like, were you drinking? He's like, yeah, it's my first day piloting in an exploratory vessel. I got a little nervous. And that's like something that you wouldn't see in Star Trek. And I'm like, yeah, that really is something that you figure
Yeah.
in the future that
Yeah.
somebody would probably still be doing. Like they get nervous and they want to
They take a
have a
drink.
drink. Yeah, take the
Yeah.
edge off.
Yeah. 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 Is Orville? It's also kind of a comedic show, right? It's a sitcom, I thought, right? Or no? Am I
Yeah,
crazy?
yeah.
Okay.
It's
So it's one of those
like I
ones that kind of
said,
ride that line. Then okay.
yeah, I thought it was just gonna be. I was one of the ones that thought it was just gonna be Family Guy in space. That it was just gonna be
Yeah.
constant humor, but it was more like a traditional sitcom, like Family Matters or even Fresh Prince, where it had its funny moments, but then it had those moments that when they
Right.
hit you, you didn't. Like I said, that the whole gender reassignment surgery, and then the suicide and all that stuff. Like I was not expecting, especially of all people, for that to come from Seth MacFarlane. Like I
Yeah.
knew he had his moments. He's discussed some things, but
Yeah.
like how deep they went into that show with those things, it blew me away. It was very well
Yeah.
written.
I think Seth MacFarlane, he's actually quite layered of a person, which I've learned over the last probably 5 years about how much he really thinks about stuff. He's kind of I think he's actually kind of an intellect, which makes sense because a
Yeah,
lot of comedians, when you kind of break it down, a lot of comedians are actually, pretty well balanced, smart folk, right? So,
yeah,
they just say use comedy is a great outlet to highlight things in life, and it's always goes back to like you got to just kind of like that's laughter is the best remedy for anything, right? So I think that they have that really good ability of taking that real life stuff and focusing on it, but using it through comedy. And I think that's why, people like Jon Stewart, Bill Burr, these kind of people that are so, big and popular is because, they're funny, but there is also a message behind it. And I think that's one of the things because
Exactly.
Seth MacFarlane's, a lot of his humor is so just like goofy toilet humor, and even Family Guy, like it's hard to find probably like the moral of any of that stuff, right? But then there's
Yeah.
moments where like you realize like, holy shit, wait a second, like his work with the Cosmos, his friendship with like Neil deGrasse Tyson, things like that, I think has always been, well, when I realized that he had a hand in Cosmos, like what, gosh, that was fucking
Yeah.
how long ago now, like over 10 years ago, and I was like, damn, like of all people, right? And that's when I started kind of realizing that, oh shit, he's a little bit more of a thinker than I knew, so.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I know I got to get on Orville. There's a lot of things I got to get onto. I'm really having a hard time. I can't stop watching Soprano clips right now, and I know there's a Sopranos rewatch coming, and I got to figure out how I'm going to figure that out. But I know I got to watch the Orville. I got to get to it. I've been playing to. I don't. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that because otherwise
Man,
I'll
you
never
say
have time.
soprano, all I could think of is Edie Falco.
I think.
She's
Yeah, I know. I
uh,
know. I always think
Edie.
of Lorraine Bacco or Lorraine. What's her name? Man, I can't. I'm gonna say it wrong. So she's the therapist in that. But anyways, you were saying
Yeah,
Edie,
she is. It's funny too because if I remember correctly, I believe the therapist. I also had a thing for her too because she
Bracco.
I
Yeah, Bracco.
I want to say I remember Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
She
Oh yeah.
was she was like his nemesis because she was I think like his daughter's troop leader, like their den mom or some crap like that.
Oh
And
shit.
like I always had it because those two, her and Edie Falco, look somewhat similar, and I don't know something about those two. I was always like, yes, like especially like with Nurse Jackie and stuff, and he's like, I was like, I used to think I'm like, damn, if I had that therapist as a kid, I would have.
Right, and like I didn't realize while that because I remember when that show was popular. I got like Sopranos. I didn't get into it till like pandemic, like a lot of people that were rewatching and watching stuff, and then I became like a super fan. And Lorraine Bracco, of course, she's been in so many like Goodfellas, this, that, and the other. Hackers. People forget she was in Hackers, which is great. But I didn't realize that it was Edie Falco in Nurse Jackie and where her background was. I just knew people like freaked out over her. I remember hearing the name, and then of course the show itself. And then after watching Sopranos, I'm like, oh shit, this is Edie Falco. So yeah, that's pretty. I feel where
Yeah,
you're coming from though too. Trust me.
Edie. Oh my god! And then
Yeah.
like you think of Edie Falco, and automatically go to Tony Collette. Oh my God, Tony Collette. Like
Yeah.
just she's just another one. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. That's funny. That's
And
great.
then when
That's
she
great.
actually speaks with her Australian accent, that like you see her in movies covering her
Hmm.
accent, and you're like, oh, then you just you hear that accent, and you're just like,
I
ah,
forget that.
yes,
Yeah, I forget that
yes,
she's got an accent until it's
yeah,
like one of those things. It's like every time Charlie Cox talks, I'm like, holy shit, I forget that he's British. He's Matt
right,
Murdock to me, right? It's so weird.
right. And it's
Some
it's
people
funny
just so
because
hide it.
I always tell people like they're like, oh, freaking Charlie Cox, and I'm like, he was better in Stardust, and people are like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, the old Stardust movie with Claire Danes. They're like, oh, that's right, that was him. I
That's
was like, yeah,
that's funny. I thought he kind of came out of nowhere too. And I know like I didn't realize he's done stuff beforehand, but I do know that he's got a movie coming out soon with somebody else. I think like a more reputable like actress. And I saw that, I'm like, man, that's crazy because like he hasn't done a ton of work outside of like Marvel stuff, at least that I've seen. I mean, maybe he does elsewhere,
mm,
but like on a grander scale. But man, yeah, he's such a good actor, and I think that it's good to hear that he's getting that different type of work because, like I said, like when you hear him speak his real like language, like it's such a shocker because he just like he's again, just Matt Murdock to me. So
yeah. It's like Tom Holland where he'll be talking and like you have the interviews where he's back in the UK talking with his regular accent,
yeah, he's
and then all
another
of a sudden
one.
he switches over to the English
Yeah,
accent. People start looking at him. He's like, oh, did I just go American there? And
yeah,
that's
he's
always
another
funny to
one.
watch.
He's another one. What are I know there's definitely some anime that you watch. Are you a huge anime person or like do you have like some
Not as like I said once again, it's another one of those topics that I beat myself up for not being into the I did though I got onto the Attack on Titan
Hmm.
hype for a while, but then I got into season 2, and
It's
after a
tough,
few
man.
episodes I was just like,
It's tough.
and then I got into the My Hero hype. Like I was
Oh,
like, you know what, let me saw that, and then like, it was Heroes, and then it was the way they did it where um the heroes were sponsored and had to be registered and all that stuff.
hmm
I thought that was a cool idea, and once again, like the stuff that series dealt with, I was like, wow,
hmm
like that was awesome. And I
yeah,
I still beat myself up from so many other animes that I'm like, I definitely gotta finish watching this one. I gotta watch, because I used to try to catch as many as I could when they
it's
started
tough,
airing in
man.
Toonami, and then
Yep.
like the older I got, a bunch of stuff started getting in the way, and I'm just like, dang, a lot of these have art. I think one of the most recent ones before I got hooked on My Hero was Fairy Tale, when I was dating my daughter's mother. She was being in a fairy tale, and I would just be in the background or whatever when like I would first go over to her place and stuff, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, huh. And like it was obviously an anime, but I was always like doing other things, and I was like, you know what? And like I sat there and rewatched it, and I want to say I got through like half the series with her, and then as always, I just like I fell off because I got preoccupied with so many other things, and then my younger sister had gotten into that thing, and that kind
Right.
of rekindled it for me. And it sucks because I started rewatching it, and I don't even think I got past the first season, and I got sidetracked again, and I still beat myself up that I have not finished that. And then they had, I don't know if it went to anime or if it was just in manga form. They had the like sequel of it with was it Lucy and Natsu's daughter, and I was like, dang, like I found out about that, and I'm like, I gotta definitely get back into this show, and sadly I did not.
I am sure there's probably an anime or planned for that if that's the case. I feel like that's always a big regret for me. I mean, with the amount of TV that has gotten so good now, that I always want to get caught up or watch or rewatch something even too. But anime is the one that always bums me out, that I just never have enough time to watch as much as I want to put to it, because that's like my favorite, probably overall my favorite form of media to enjoy and watch. Is I could watch anime
Yeah,
for hours, so um but that being said, like I kind of understand that. It's kind of surprising. I actually thought that you would be way more into anime, but like you said, again, it's hard to balance. But I know you're kind of a Gundam guy. Did you watch a lot of Gundam anime growing up, or much of
yeah.
that?
I got like we said, back to Toonami with Gundam Wing, and that
Hmm.
kicked it off with me. I grew up watching old videos of Gigantor with my godfather,
Oh,
and like
nice.
I used to love the giant mecha, and then you had Voltron, and
Oh
then
God,
Power
so good.
Rangers, and then to see Gundam Wing pop up, and like I got into that. I got pretty far in that one as a teenager. I friggin' even have a few nowhere near as much as you guys have, but I had gotten a few of them. I still have some of
Hmm.
them inside. I actually used to go into Microsoft Paint and would just pixel by pixel draw Gundams, and I do my own little like Gundam style, and I just like
Gundam
I
style,
couldn't
or
get
oh, not Gundam
pretty
style.
much
Gundam.
both, pretty much
Gundam.
both.
Yeah,
After
right, right,
there was
right.
that brief period where
Yeah,
it all intertwined into one thing,
it
but
did. It did. It did.
yeah, I would do the front portrait and like the side profile and stuff, and then I would
No
try to
shit.
figure out like if I could actually go and make those more dynamic poses, but it was always just this and to the side.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that I can get a little better with Blender so I can maybe try to at least do the bust of like my own little Gundam.
That's cool. That's cool. With size face on it, of course. Um,
Right?
what are your so? I think that you used to watch cartoons growing up a lot. I feel like we've talked cartoons in the past, but I always like to ask everybody, and not everybody, but some people, I should say. We'll say you right now. But, what are your all-time favorite cartoon intros? You can say
Oh
cartoons, but
man.
I'm talking like because to me,
I
like
I got
the cartoon
a
could be
flood of
mid,
them
but the
coming.
intro,
Right?
right?
That was a popular thing in the 80s and
Yeah,
early 90s. Like the
yeah,
cartoon,
man.
it'd be like, but you would just get up out of your chair and just say,
Yeah, yeah.
Denver, the last dinosaur. Like,
That's a great one that nobody ever
hell
brings
yeah.
up. That's a
Hell
great
yeah.
one. Yeah.
But yeah, you had Denver, friggin' Captain Planet,
Yeah.
Gummy Bears, which
Still
that
one of my
you could be
all-time.
tired as hell and that thing comes on and you start
Yeah.
off dancing, gum, like you elevate with the song and then you
You
jump out
do.
of the chair and you
You
just
do.
saying
You
bouncing
do.
here and there and there. And then you get that sit down, just watch the cartoon. You won't even be bouncing around like a lunatic. And you're like
Yeah.
bouncing here and
That's
there
still
and
I do that
everywhere.
that one lives in my head probably like 50% of the time. Like there'll be just be a random part of my day and that'll just pop in my head like the Gummy Bear song.
I
Hands down.
always said that I would lose my mind if one day just some Netflix trailer or something popped up, or even before a movie, like I'm sitting there and all you hear is that boom, boom, and then it's like gummy bear, like that. That's all they would have to do, just a black screen and just hear the boom, boom, and then gummy
Yep.
bears. I'd lose my mind
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
that cartoon like that to come back as a series or even like a just one shot movie would be awesome as hell.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely would be. Please, Disney, please.
Right?
Please. What's some other
Somebody.
intros for you? What's some other big ones?
Oh man. See, we got Denver Last Dinosaur. What was his name? Eco, the World Guardian. Oh, what now? I remember. You remember that one? That
Yep.
floating head dude with the hands and the little purple guy.
Yep. Yep. I do.
Um.
I don't remember the
Oh my God.
song, but I know what you're
Right.
talking about.
I used to know it too, but I went through a brief period in my early 20s where I just like relapsed in the childhood and I would YouTube the theme songs and I had them memorized and now it's just all disappeared. But oh my god.
That's how it works. That's how it works.
I'm trying to think and they're just all flooding to the point where I can't pick one because they're all intermingling together.
Mhm.
Oh
Mhm.
my god. Oh my god, I
Any of
got one playing and I can't remember
any of the Disney
what the hell it
ones from like the
is.
90s, like the DuckTales, the Tailspin, the
All right.
Darkwing Duck, like all of those, like
Those were awesome.
it's like HBO level of like intro bangers, right? Because HBO intros are
Right.
some of the best, right? And the Disney cartoons in the 90s like that, they were all fucking bangers. All of them. Every single one of them. It's
Right.
hard. It's tough.
Animaniacs was always a fun one.
That's a
Not
great one too, yeah.
Animaniacs. That was good too. Oh my god, the Tiny Toons. We're tiny, we're
Oh
toony,
god.
we're all a little loony.
Yeah,
Like
that
just that line right there, I freaking loved it because that
yeah.
summed up pretty much every kid at that point.
That's right.
Like every
That's
kid
right.
was tiny and freaking loony
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that.
That's
Oh my
perfect.
god, I it's funny because not even just with cartoon theme songs, but even like sitcoms like Step by Step, Full House, and Fresh Prince. I always said that
That Friday night lineup.
TV shows do not hit as good as they used to because they don't have theme songs with lyrics. It could
Mhm.
have like an awesome, they don't like not lyrical, but instrumental theme that's like pretty cool. But it just does not hit as hard as a lot of those cheesy theme songs that had a message in there.
Yeah, it's an
I guess
extra level of yeah, it's definitely an extra yeah, heightened because you can see because I mean, you can listen to it all day, but can you sing it?
right?
No, you
You
can't
so
sing it.
you sit there you're like humming it. You try like what is it?
Mhm.
But the instant the show starts, you're like days go by. It's a simple thing. But then like when you're later on and you're sitting there in school like reminiscing with your friends, and you're like, "Hey, man, what the hell is the theme song?" And everybody's humming. I think the only theme song that people actually knew was the Fresh Prince one, because that one like you want it to sound cool because it was a
Mhm.
little rap, but like the other ones,
Mhm.
as much as you didn't want to admit, you did admit that you enjoyed them, but
Mhm.
you couldn't remember them to save your life.
And it was a song on an album too. To be fair, off
Yeah,
Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, they had it was on an album as well. So
right. Along with his Freddy Krueger one,
oh
that was a
yeah,
funny
the
one.
A Nightmare on My fuck, what was it?
I like
I don't think
how
it was Elm Street, but yeah.
they all at some point mixed over with someone. You had Fresh Prince with Freddie. You had MC Hammer with the Adams Family. You
Hmm.
had, I think Chris Cross did one, but I don't think they did anyone specific. I think it was just like just nightmarish, spooky one. But
Hmm.
that was an odd period when you had like
Yeah,
singers and bands just crossing over with like horror or fictional characters. You're just like, what?
I would actually say even better than the Nightmare on My Street. I think it was what it was called on the DJ Jazz Jeff and the Fresh Prince album was, uh, Hey Jazz. I'm trying to remember. I'm gonna fight Mike Tyson. That's the one that they had on one of their albums, and it's a whole bit about Fresh Prince starting shit with Mike Tyson, and they're gonna fight at like big pay per view or something, whatever the fucking that fucking song's hilarious. But yeah, that it is funny that kind of time period, like how pop culture, like in that late '80s, early '90s, like how a lot of musicians were just exploding pop culture. Pro wrestling was big on that as well too. You know, kind of
All
getting into
right,
that quite a bit
everything
and
just merging
crossing
into one
everything,
thing.
everything just merging into one as money there, right? So,
All right.
um, is there any hobbies that you have that I might not know about or anybody knows about that you just like, just never came up? Like, do you collect toenails or anything weird? Yeah, you
Nah,
do? No, I'm kidding.
nothing weird like that. Just I don't know if it's considered a hobby. I
Yeah.
don't do it as much, but I used to always, even before I had my daughter, I would jump in my car and just like drive and see where I ended up, and then like if I found a
Okay.
good place to eat or
Okay.
just like a nice little scenic area and take pictures and stuff. And then
Okay.
like
That's
when I
cool.
had my daughter and she got a little older, the new thing I would do is jump in the car and like we pull out of the driveway or parking lot and I'm like, all right, which we going? Left or right? And she's like, left. And then like we get into a four-way intersection. I'm like, we're going left, right, or straight. And then just like I'll let her pick. And even if we go in a giant circle before we actually end up going anywhere, that's like just a little thing that we would do. And then
That's
we
great.
end up going somewhere and the instant like she was hungry, I would tell her, I'm like, do you want the usual thing like McDonald's or KFC or something, or do you want to find something new? And she's like, something new. And I'm like, all right, what are we gonna eat? Like, you know, burger, pizza, what are we looking for? And she's like, I don't know, you decide. And then we'll go from there. That was
That's
a
cute.
little
That's cute.
thing we had for a while.
That's charming as hell, and that's a pretty neat thing to do, and to kind of give her also the choices in that too. I love that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it was always nice going for that drive, seeing where you end up, and
Yeah.
always finding a new location or a new,
Yeah.
eatery. It's
Hmm.
always nice. The only thing is that it would suck when, like me, you got ADHD and you're just like in the moment, and then you're trying to remember. You're looking through Google Maps, like, oh, where the hell did we get that shaved ice cream from? Ah, where
Right. You got to
was it?
you got to save it on your Google Maps as like a place. You got to star
you're
that place.
you're sitting
It's
there and
important.
you're like, oh my god, I visited like 5 towns in that one day, and then Google does your travel history,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's showing you all the towns you went to, but none of the actual locations you
None of the
stopped at, and
actual
you're like,
locations. Yep.
and then you got to sit there and you're like, okay, I know I was in, where was it? It was like, wait, no, yeah, we were in Auburn around lunchtime. So it's got to be, and then you like shaved ice Auburn or freaking, grinders
Right.
Auburn, and you're sitting there, you're like finding 5 different places, and you're like, oh my god, why the hell can't I remember the name? Like you even go into Google, you go into Street View, and you're staring at the building for like 15 minutes, and you're
And
like,
you're still trying to figure it out. Right.
you're like,
Right.
was
Right.
was that it?
That's funny.
Like you even try to like go up and down the street, like looking at it, like pretending you're driving up to it, and you're like, and then what's bad is I'll try to have my daughter, and mind you, she's only 10, and I'll be asking her, I'm like, City girl, does that look like the place? Do you remember? She's like, I know the inside was white with one blue wall, and I'm like, all right, let's see if any of these freaking food picture reviews has any indoor thing. And I'm looking, I'm like, nope, this is all yellow interior. This is green interior. And I'm like, wait a minute. What? Wait a minute. There's the one wall, and I'll look. I'm like, yes, this is it. Like I find a place, and I'm like, wow, that only took about a year and a half.
Right. That just yeah. Now you got to drive back and everything too. No, and hey, that to me is a hobby. That's pretty adventurous, and I don't think probably people do that enough. That's something that I like to think once in a while I do, but I probably don't hardly enough. But I am somebody who does like to at least kind of have an idea, like I'm going to plan out and go somewhere and do something different, or try to find a new food place or whatever. So no, man, that's a hobby.
Yeah.
That's a very adventurous hobby. I love that. I do. That's great. All right, awesome. All right. Let's see. We're gonna kind of start steering it home a little bit here. So, what are? And I know I just asked you about hobbies that I don't know, but being that over time, I feel like I've gotten to know you actually, pretty well. Than most people you tend to connect with on the interwebs. But what's some things or a couple of things maybe that I don't know about you, or maybe our community doesn't?
Um,
Maybe a neat fact or something.
I don't think I have anything. I usually I'm pretty upfront. I'm not like I have my private moments, but it's not like I'm always to myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I feel
kind
like you're
of
pretty you're kind of an open book. I feel like for the most part, from my interpretation.
only fun fact I could think of is when I was younger, I used to be able to take my arm and just like twist it all the way around, and that was one of those things you do as a kid to like freak people out.
Yeah,
And I'd
yeah.
be sitting there in the cafeteria, and I just like have my arm down and just rotate it to where my elbows facing one way, and it
It's
would
so
come like
weird.
full circle. And before I revealed how I would do it, I would always have my arm just on the table and just like flat out like that, and I would just bend my arm up and down, but then I would twist it all the way around to where instead of the elbow going down, it was going like I can't really do it now without twisting my whole body, but my elbow would be going up. So one minute it's going like this, the next minute it's going like that, and
Oh
people were like
Jesus
just
Christ!
they were like, "What the hell?" And then I would show them like I would sit there, I was able to take my hand and twist it. I don't get it in frame, but twist it all the way around. Like that's about as far as I could go. But when I was younger, I could get it to where it could almost go past 360.
Oh
So
my
the
God!
thumb
And
would
just
like start
spin.
right there and just spin all the way around, come like back and go a little further. And that
Man,
would always freak people out, especially when I'm sitting there and I would goof. I'd be leaning against something, and all of a sudden, like I do that whole slip thing, and I'm like, oh, and they're looking, and like my arm is like bent in a way it's not supposed to be, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, oh my god, and I'm like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine.
that's funny. That's funny. We're in school. Were you like a class
I was
clown?
an
Like
idiot.
with
I was an
yeah,
idiot.
okay, yeah, you were. Yeah, I was too. I don't know.
I
Were you
was
good?
it.
Were you good academically though, at least, or no?
Um, for a while, there's this weird thing in my family where all the guys, they're pretty much we all get really good grades up until about fourth, fifth grade, and
Mm-hmm.
then from there, if it's not like a struggle to maintain, we're just like slowly going down to where we're end high school, like C D students, like
Yeah.
C plus, maybe a B if we're lucky. So that part
Right on.
kind of
Yeah.
sucked. I could should have probably studied just a little better. I mean, we did. We kind of struggled, but we did pass each year.
Mm-hmm.
I got held back one time, but that was actually the case of the school messing up on my credits, which is funny because for years I used to bug that the school system was out to get me. And then I actually finally had proof because when my brother graduated before the year before I was supposed to, you needed, I want to say it was 22 credits, and then they bumped it up to 24. And I somehow only had, I was supposed to have like 20, I think it was like 21 and a half or 22, something like that. And like there was just this whole thing. And after like I went to summer school and I think even night class to try to like course correct it, I still got held back. And when I started 12th grade again, I can't remember it was a letter or something, but they came to find out that somehow they misplaced a credit and a half. And
Misplaced.
yeah, when I was looking at it with my mother and father, I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute, like add it up. I'm like, so if that's the case, I actually have 25 and a half credits. I'm like, I should have been able to graduate. And I sat there, and then my mom was like, "No, I think it's like it's best for you to just like do the whole 12th grade over again. You know, you should be fine and everything." And after a month of being in 12th grade again, I was just sitting there. I'm like, "Oh," and I'm sitting there. I was like, "You know what?" I was living with my father at the time, and I was like, "Dad, how about? I mean, I have everything. I'm fine. I have the credits. Why waste a whole other, wait a whole year
Right.
when the fall semester for college is going to start soon? I could try to get in there for like, basic studies or something." And after a bit back and forth, my dad was like, "All right, you could do it, but you have to go. It's, you can't put it off or anything. It's got to be the next one, and you got to try to make an effort."
Right.
Which I did. Unfortunately, like I said, I was a bit of an idiot, so I didn't last that long in it. I ended up getting a job instead.
Mm-hmm. I've been down that route. I know how that works, man. Yep. Yep. Very familiar with that. Yeah, it's like, and I have like a. This is a whole other crazy topic. But like for me, it's very frustrating, and it's probably because of my patience. Like I struggle with going to college because I had just done 12 or 13 years of the same shit, right? And now you want me to go into college to be something specific, and you want me
Yeah.
to do 2 to 3 years of the same shit that doesn't even pertain to what I'm going into. So for me at that point, I just jumped deep into work. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely familiar with that. So but I did have at the very least that you figure that you were probably a little bit of a class clown as well too, because that's definitely how I rolled. So, um, if they knew you for something, it was definitely for being a jackass. So that's the way I
Hmm.
looked at it. Like, there's definitely some things. There's one teacher I got that I haven't seen her in over a decade, and I'll just never forget the last time I saw her. She brought up once again like this certain thing that we did for a presentation in class that we were just clowning me and another guy, and she's like, that was still the funniest thing I've ever seen teaching. Like that was, I'll never forget that. So awesome. Hey, so music's a big topic I feel like around here because music's a big part of my life, and we end up talking a lot about music. On Let's Set the Tone. But for you, I know I don't feel like we talk a lot about music, which is random because I talk about music with so many people. But what do you typically listen to? Like, do you have a genre? Or are you kind of like into a little bit of everything?
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Okay.
Like my music taste is like my ADHD. Like I'll if
Right,
you
right,
see
right, right.
my playlist, it'll go from like clubhouse to friggin' like it'll be Cascadia, the whole every time we touch, I swear I could fly to friggin' Du hast
Right,
mich, and
right,
then
right.
switch over to friggin' Pussycat Dolls, Jai Ho, and then like out of nowhere, it's just like boom, then the Mandalorian theme pops up, and it's like it's all over the place.
That's great.
I
Okay.
have some genres I focus on a bit more, but for
Hmm.
the most part, I'll go by like mood. If I'm like bored and I want something somber, I'll put on something slow like older Deftones, or if I want
Okay.
friggin' just to like pump myself up for work, I'll put on like Electric Callboy or something, which they actually
Okay.
have. They did a version of Cascadia's song Every Time We Touch. And then if I'm just feeling bored or if I want to take a nap, I'll just like I'll put on different songs. Like it's my music taste is
Pretty
all over
varied
the
then. Okay.
place.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's always the best way to be. What is there a couple of bands that you can kind of name out there, or maybe a couple artists that you want to throw out there that are like maybe your favorites or some of your all-time favorites?
Um, Disturbed is definitely one.
Okay.
Static X. I still kick
Ooh,
myself for not watching them live. I had the chance twice to watch them
man.
live. They came to the
Mm-hmm.
area and I missed it. And that's like I loved Kitty. That was a big one, but
Yeah.
Static X will always be the one. Like I know they're still around there. When I've seen the new guy, was it Zero? He's real good.
He's doing
A
well.
lot of
Yeah,
people say
yeah,
that he
it's fine.
captures Wayne's
Yep,
essence
he
really good.
does. I agree with
But
that.
the fact that it's like I missed my chance to see Wayne live because I remember when I was first like getting into live shows and stuff, the one thing I always heard about Static X is they sound just as good live as they
Yes,
do on a CD.
fact.
And when I first started watching some of those clips and like the live performances, I was like, wow, like you could always tell the difference from a live performance and everything. But Static X,
Mm,
like I would watch it, I was like, wow, like
yep.
it actually is almost the same. Like it's amazing.
Mm, can confirm.
And oh
I
my
was
god.
I got to see him before Wayne died at like an Oz Fest or a Mayhem Fest or something like that. That's how I seen like probably 90% of the bands that I've seen, honestly, or like music festivals. But yeah, they definitely like live. They're really fucking good live. So or they were. I'm sure they probably still are. But yeah, okay, all right, awesome. I didn't know. I didn't. I guess I didn't see that coming at all. Any like solo artists like that you're just big fan of? Like just oh man, it's huge fan of their catalog.
Trying to think. There's some artists that like I'll listen to a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't like go out of my way to actually
Gotcha.
try to always listen to their stuff. That's like the hard part. Um,
So you're not a Swifty then?
she has one or two of the older songs that like I
Yeah,
will admit are a bit catchy, but
yeah.
I'm trying to think. Oh my god. Um, Jesus Christ, I just forgot his name. Oliver Tree. I like a lot of his stuff.
Oliver
He's got
Tree.
some good stuff. There's what's his name? Tyler the Creator.
Yeah, there you go.
He's
Okay.
got some good stuff. Which I find it funny how he was always goofing around and then he got known more for his goofiness and he got irritated at people only, recognizing his goofiness and then
Right.
he ended up getting irritated at himself for allowing that to happen. And then when he went and focused again on his music, he is all his stuff that came back was just so like it can't like say like it was better, but to say better isn't the word I'm looking for. Like he transcended. He was like, I screwed up. I gotta like get laser focused back on this, and he blew it out when he came back with his music.
All right, all right. All right, good. And I got half ass out there, half his beer review
Oh hell
saying that
yeah.
he loves Jinkos. So that's
Yeah,
something I
that's Oliver Tree's thing. He walks
yeah.
around a windbreaker and the bowl cut and his jinkos and his flip flops. And then he had like the
I had to
biggest
look him up because
scooter,
I remember now I know who you're all speaking of. So yeah, yeah.
his scooter. Like he I think it was like a like an 18-foot scooter he had built for one of his music videos and for like publicity that was bananas. Like to watch him riding the scooter and then he was like on stilts and like he went from having just ridiculously wide jinkos to just ridiculously long jinkos.
That's so funny. I'd seen he God, he's been in a few different like interviews and done some stuff I feel like this year too. Like cuz I remember seeing him one time on the internet and I thought it was a bit. I didn't think anything
Yeah,
of it. I'm like, okay,
that's what a
somebody's
lot
doing a
of people.
bit.
Oh, my chair.
Right, right, right. And then like in the last year recently, like he's in all these interviews all the time. I'm like, God damn, like this guy is like all of a sudden like kind of getting all over. And then I realized, again, like I didn't when you said the name, I didn't recognize it at first. And then I felt like maybe I should recognize it. And then when I looked it up here right on the web, I'm like, oh, that fucking guy. So once
Yeah.
again, somehow that guy is just I don't know, maybe it's
I
a
would,
sign I need to
if it
listen to
wasn't
it.
for my sister, I would have probably never gone into him because like I would always see like the way he dressed and some of the things he was doing, and I'm like, ah, don't tell me he's another one of these. And then it was essentially like how I just said with Tyler Creator, it was more known for the goofiness
Right.
that overshadowed his music. But then my sister was like, no, like really, she had me listen to some of his songs, and I was like, oh dang, like this is actually pretty good. And then like I
Mm,
listened to more, and then like he's even got some slow somber stuff. I'm like, wow, this guy's a lot better than what I thought he was gonna be. I thought he was gonna be one of those guys that's all about a stick or some
right.
type of bit. And it was like um oh my god, I want to say like Weird Al almost how he had this thing, but then like the way he converted his parodies and it was almost like that. Like not
Yeah. Okay.
exactly,
Okay.
but it was one of those people where you say like, oh, it's just a thing, and then like you're like, oh, okay, like maybe
Yeah.
this
When you
isn't what
stop
I
to think
thought it
about it.
was. Yeah,
Okay. 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 Yeah. I think it's a good example too. I mean, of somebody who, Weird Al, like, um, it's crazy because his work is all parody, but like he has to completely rewrite and put together a song that not
yeah.
only first is it funny, but is brilliantly written. Like that's how it was written the first time. And I some people I think like for me, like I love Amish Paradise, I think more than Gangster's Paradise,
Oh
right? You know what I
man,
mean?
yes, yes.
So and his probably man, I like the Apprentice song or whatever the
Oh,
Anakin
the
Skywalker,
yeah,
what's the name of that song? I love American Pie, but
yes.
like his version of like Anakin, like that man, I wish
Wasn't it
I
like
can't
the
think of the name.
that Anakin guy or something,
Like the beginning, yeah,
or
yeah,
that
like
Skywalker guy? Oh
God,
my
what
god,
is it?
I
What is
cannot
it? What is
freaking
it? Weird
remember.
Al Anakin song. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what it's called. The Saga Begins. That's what it's called. Yeah. And like, man, I fucking love that song, right? And I still think his best song, in my opinion, probably my favorite song that he's done is White and Nerdy. I fucking
Oh my
love that
god, when I
song.
first heard
It's like
that,
an
I lost
anthem,
my
dude.
mind.
It's
I
like a
sent
fucking
it.
anthem, man.
I sent it to one of my friends because the way he looks like in the white and nerdy hoodie is
Yeah.
exactly how one of my friends used to look. Like
Yeah.
he was super light skinned. He's mixed white and Puerto Rican, but he looks like a white dude. And anytime he would try to embrace his Hispanic side, we would just bug him because like he would walk around with a do rag, but then he looked like a little doofy. And when White and Nerdy came out, we would always be playing it just to bug him because
Right,
he
right, right.
looked just like Weird Al did with the hoodie and the do rag. And
That's so
I
dope.
still got mad at myself that I missed a chance to buy a White and Nerdy hoodie for him.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I
if
know.
ever comes back, I'm definitely gonna get it for
I
him.
know, dude. Because that was what, circa 2004, 2005. I always wanted one of
Yeah,
those fucking hoodies too, and I never bought one. One day. They gotta exist out there. Maybe just
yeah.
gotta look hard enough. I swear there's like a windbreaker version too, like a I don't know, maybe not, but
Oh man, that
um,
would be hilarious.
right, right, right. So now that I'm able to do these discussions like this, and I'm starting to get into these roundtable discussions, what is and you can think on this if you don't have an answer initially, but what's a roundtable discussion you want me to host sometime for Let's Set the Tone that you want to be a part of?
Definitely the figure making, figure modification. Like
Okay.
I've always been interested in
Okay.
that. Like I said, I had taken a old animated Batman and sanded down the ears and the forearm talons
Yeah.
to try to make a space ghost.
Okay.
But that was as far as I got. Like I just sanded it down. Like I smoothed out some pieces. I think I tried primering the chest, but I never got that far. My brother, he actually um spacing on. I think it was yeah. He also modified a Batman one. It was that brief period where they had that Batman, those Batman figures that they almost looked at like the Aeon Flux style, where he was like real
Oh,
thin and
yup.
slender and whatnot.
Yup.
And he modified it to be Wolverine. He took
Oh shit.
silicone caulking and he put it on the ears and like he sanded them down about halfway and then he put it and formed it up to make it Wolverine's hair.
Yeah.
And he had one of the hands was a fist and he cut into it and he took some oh my god staples, but not regular staples, like construction staples for like stapling down drywall, or not drywall,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
insulation and
Like
whatnot.
those big one. Yeah, like those
Yeah,
a little
he
wider
took
too.
it
Yeah.
and like flattened them out and he stuck them inside the
No shit.
fist.
That's pretty smart.
And yeah, like he went all the way with it. He even went painted the face flesh tone, painted the hair. He started painting around the neck and like down to the chest and like one of the arms. And that, like, I've always thought about that. I've always thought about like taking figures apart and
Yeah.
doing the whole like modifying them for a bit more flexibility and stuff. But then I was also like, am I smart enough to do that? So, but I've always been interested in that.
Yeah, I actually already talked to Zilla about that. So I got some plans for those kind of things for World According to Tone sessions on that, and so definitely like if that's something you want to be part of on one of those things, we could ask some questions. I know I always tell just to say, because he's a good buddy too. Like check out his YouTube channel if you got any questions on some of that stuff, because you can always go back into his library and find some of those kind of tutorials and stuff, because early on he threw a lot of those up there. Speaking of somebody else as well too, that is going to be partly involved in that as well too, is Jeff. Hey Jeff, good to see you. So
There you
he
go.
says figure custom is definitely a dream, and discussion for me too. Yeah, and definitely. So when I can get that put together, you two are the main two, because you've actually asked about it before, and I just assume because me and Jeff have been talking about some of this stuff, that when I can get Zilla to find some time to do that, the four of us at the very least could sit around and in one of these discussions and talk like that, and he can like show some stuff. So because he does great work, and I know Zilla likes to share. There's no gatekeeping in that community, anyways. And it would be something good to have some probably updated content, things that he learned to also have. So
Yeah,
no, it's awesome.
the two figures that you posted on Instagram, that those are just cool as hell. And it's funny
Yeah.
because now that like I that complete spaced over this, my younger brother was the one who modified the Batman into a Wolverine figure, and
Oh yeah.
my older brother, he had gotten he started off with a webcam, and then he got in like a basic camera,
Yeah.
and he used to do like he tried his hand at stop motion.
Oh
Like he
shit,
started off,
that's
he
tough. You gotta have
had
patience. Fuck that.
the yeah, remember the
Damn.
Jesus Christ, the episode one figures where it
Yes.
came like they
The little
freaking
chip.
swing and they attach. No, no, the one that, well, yeah, those two, but the ones that were attached, that they came with the little lightsabers that you could like hook them onto the toy, and then like you hit the button on the lightsaber, and it would
Yep.
press a button on their back, and they would like swing
Yes,
side to
they would
side and
swing. Yep.
whatnot.
Yep. They would do it. Yep.
Like
Oh yeah.
he started that like off screen, just like going like that, like holding the lightsabers off screen, and then like keeping it down so you couldn't see. And then he went there and like he had, I think the longest one he did was one of Obi-Wan, just like walking, like he didn't get to move the feet, he just moved Obi-Wan across the screen, and then like he looked around and stuff, and then like he took out the lightsaber, and it was just like, because it was the old school, Star Wars figure, so he was just like that, and then like the lightsaber just appeared, and he did a few with the Legos, but nowhere near as intricate as he wanted to,
Right
like
on.
those
That's cool. That's
crazy ones you see on
a lot of
YouTube.
work. A lot of work, man. That's a lot of work. That's cool though. Damn. So y'all into that? Okay. So that's actually more of a world according to tone. So that's the nerdum side of my duality here. But what about like far as like we've done the Andor discussion. We got the Last of Us discussion coming up here. I'll talk in a bit here. But is there any like topical discussions you want to be involved in on a roundtable? Anything like that? Like I said, you can think about that if you want, but if there is, let me know, because I want to do more like roundtable discussions going forward too.
um Probably say, speaking of Andor,
Mm,
um, just like behind the scenes stuff.
okay.
Something like the graphics and like the costume, something that like what is an aspect of something like Star Wars or something,
Okay.
or even wrestling from a production value that intrigued us, that pulled us in, that
Yeah. Yeah.
compare it to other things like costume designs from wrestling, costume designs of Star Wars, and all that type of
Okay.
stuff. Like
I like
what?
that.
Because we're always looking at like the nerddom stuff of
Yeah.
the finished project, but we rarely talk about the behind the scenes stuff. Like how many of us at some point try doing their own lightsabers in Photoshop, or even
Right.
try to
Right.
make their own, Macho Man costume or
Right.
something,
Right.
or even try to make their own, mimic for D&D or something like that. Like
Okay.
something like was it Adam Savage with his tested channel, where he's always showing the props and everything. Like what did we see growing up that really pulled us in, and brought us to that level of love for that thing.
Gotcha. I'm taking some notes on that. So that's a, I think that would be a fun conversation. There you go. Boom. All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, we'll talk about that more in depth here then, and man, come up with a roundtable discussion for that. That's awesome. See, I knew you had something good in you. See, that's why I wanted to ask you. That's why I had that teed up for you. So awesome. Well, we're gonna get into the last run here, and you're gonna run through the gauntlet of questions here that we do on Let's Set the Tone. But before we get to
All
that,
right.
a couple of them that I want to just kind of just talk about and point out. Maybe they're not so many questions. The second one will be, but I do want to at least share that there are. I counted 4 people specifically in my life that send me nonstop flow of either reels or memes, and you are definitely one of those. I would say you're probably in the top 1 or 2 overall. Which I just wanted to say is like it's great because I'm bad at sometimes like getting to them right away. Because as you probably see, I'm all over the fucking place on the interwebs. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Social media.
Oh
But when
yeah.
I get to them, I
Busy
always
man.
yes, I watch it. I know it's stupid, but it is what it is. But I get to them and I watch them in a row, and you usually send me a lot of good stuff. But like it's like 90% of the time when I'm looking at stuff and I got to send something out, like it's usually the same 3 or 4, and you're certainly one of them. And then of course there's some that maybe only you get as well too. So I just wanted you to know that I do appreciate that. I know it's such a small little thing, but
Yeah.
that's how I knew that, because we've got this similar sense of humor. We got a lot of the same interests.
Yeah.
If you can share those kind of things, and we can all look at those and go, that's fucking funny or stupid or laugh about it. That's how you
Right.
know that you were meant to be friends. So no, I just wanted to
Oh
say
hell
that
yeah.
I
Hell
find
yeah.
that funny because you're definitely one of the ones. Like I'll wake up sometimes because you work weird hours, so sometimes even like it's random time frames, and maybe I don't see it right. And I'll wake up to like a fucking handful of them, and I think it's pretty funny. So, um, but yeah, so Warframe, you talked about it earlier. Are you still playing that, or do you still kind of like play a little bit here and
Um,
there?
Not as much. Waiting for some more changes to come. They've recently
Mm-hmm.
started in the past, I want to say like 2 3 years. They've been getting the new player experience, which was always horrible.
Yeah.
More situated to where, yeah, I always bug people because it's it's gonna be like a I want to say 14-year-old game, and it's
Crazy.
a game that it still has its player count is still steadily growing, and in the past 2 years, because of fixing their new player experience, is actually growing a bit more
More
now.
casual to jump in right away,
Yeah,
right?
because like when I first started playing it, the whole running joke of it was that if you didn't have a wiki page open or a veteran player with you, you were going to be completely lost. And that's
Mm,
what I had to do. I had to have a wiki page open, but now they actually have it to
that's
where
funny.
you go, you start your mission, and it'll actually guide you. Like it highlights the next mission you have to do to progress in the star system. And their last dev stream, they were talking about even going a step further and color coding it, so you know the main missions you need to do to unlock more of their storyline,
Yeah.
and then like the missions that are strictly just to get a warframe or to find lore from another planet, like Earth's little story missions that they have, or Venus's little story missions. So it's actually it's
They're still
pretty
evolving.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
also have the they went switched over from the hyperactive space ninjas to now like a slower, steady version of it with Soulframe. So they went from just being hyperactive looter shooter in space to being more chill. And the developers were like, the best way to describe it is almost like an Elden Ring light. Like it's more focused on melee combat. It's the fantasy aspect
Right.
instead of the sci-fi. It's
Okay.
real slower, chill. A game that you don't have 1,001 enemies coming at you. You can just enjoy the scenery. And one of the things that, or two of the things rather, that DE has done just perfectly is just music and ambient noises, and then the skyboxes. Like you go on some of their planets, and you see like when you're on Earth and you're in the plains of Cetus, and it's transitioning from day to night, and you see the wildlife, And now with the graphics, with like the fogs and the god rays coming down from the suns coming down through the trees, just it's extremely beautiful.
Damn. Okay.
Very, very beautiful.
I was actually going to say, hey, sell me on this, and I think you just that was a really good elevator pitch there. So I had a feeling that you were probably still kind of integrated on it, whether you're playing as much as you had or still do a little bit, or you probably at least still keep high tabs on it. I've probably clocked in 34 minutes on it at one point when it first dropped on PS4 years ago. I love grinding in games. I always say get your grind right, right? You know, somebody once coined, but I'm assuming that's a big thing for anybody that plays that, right? It's just literally enjoying that grind because it's that
Yeah,
yeah, it's that yeah. If you're an RPG player like at all in any form, that's what it always was for me. Is just that grind. So okay. I had a feeling. I know you're always peddling warfare or Warframe to everybody, so you're like the Warframe drug dealer in the community. So but hey, we all got to have a status. So
yeah.
all right. So Gauntlet time. What was your favorite toy growing up?
Ooh. Oh man. I want to say I honestly can't remember what it was, but growing up when my brother and I were in Puerto Rico, we had this play set. They were these cavemen dinosaur warriors. Like they each came with I had one figure, my brother had another one, and it was one of those cheap small plastic ones where like their arms and legs moved, like the
Yeah,
elbows and knees didn't move, the waist
yeah,
didn't even move. I
classic.
honestly
Yeah,
can't
classic.
remember if the head turned or not, but then they had I think my brother had he might have had a triceratops and I had a T-Rex or something like that, but then they had a little like a harness, like a saddle that you could put on the dinosaurs and then you just ride around. And even after all the toys that I could think of, like when they had the Spider-Man figures, they were super posable. I had this
Yeah,
one
Toy Biz.
Superman toy that was like a glider. You threw I always went back to that little caveman dinosaur rider. Like I don't know if it was just because you know it reminded me of like He-Man and all those
Yeah,
older shows at the time, but that little figure was one of the things. Even when I had gone back to Puerto Rico when I was older, I went and I tried to see if I found that figure. My grandmother actually she managed to save like one or two of the weapons in my brother's dinosaur, but she didn't have the little guys with them, which kind of sucks.
bummer, bummer. Check Macari if you ever want to relive you. I mean, you never know. You never know. You never know. Okay, that's awesome. And of course, dinosaurs, right? Like, I mean, it's dinosaurs, so it's
Hell
hard
yeah.
to, right? Uh, is there a book you've read that is like a favorite book that always sticks with you, or you
Ooh,
know?
yes. Um, I'm gonna say Last Days of Krypton.
Okay,
That was a very good one because for years they never specified like it was always being retconned of how Superman of how Krypton it
right.
demolished like what exactly happened, and in the Last Days of Krypton they essentially stuck everything in there, but they didn't make it too clustered or anything. Like they had it where it was just the sun was getting too big, so that was one factor they kept in there. They went it was an advanced race, but also because of all the things that they had with like um what is it like the radiation, the nuclear warfare and all that stuff,
Hmm.
the chemicals that seeped in to the planet. And I love the fact that they revealed that at least in that book that the reason that kryptonite was so dangerous to Kryptonians was that it wasn't just like the space rays and everything that affected it, the gases and everything. It was actually the different colored kryptonite was essentially different kinds of radioactive waste that had gotten into the ground and solidified over the years. So to
Okay.
humans,
Dang.
like how that brief period where Lex was around kryptonite so much that he ended up getting some type of cancer. That's essentially what it was. That the kryptonite was like they solidified it that yeah, kryptonite is in fact it's not just a type of radioactive rock. It's a chunk of solidified radioactive waste. And
Toxic
then they even
waste.
had
Oh.
it's the sun is messing everything up. You got the toxic waste like bubbling and coming to the surface, and then you had Brainiac show up to be the icing on the cake, like, hey, things are already unstable, I'm gonna do my usual stuff, and make things even worse.
Oh,
And there
right.
was
Awesome.
another one, I think it was called Coldness in the Blood, about a vampire called, oh my god, what the hell was his name? I think it was like Matthew Mullard or Millard, something like that. And I come to find out that, like, because in the dust jacket it said that he had like ties to Dracula, and
Yeah.
it turned out that he was Dracula, and it was Dracula in modern day. And the guy, it even went to where he had like a nephew and like a grandnephew that was like adopted, like a family line that he watched over the years. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I come to find out that it was, I think, the second book in a 4 or 5 book collection, which I still got to try to find those. And I come to find out that it's actually a sequel that the guy got permission from Bram Stoker's wife or like his daughter or something to continue the story of Dracula. So that,
Really? So it's
yeah,
like
that
part of that line?
yeah, that always got me interesting. Like
Yeah.
it's like one of those official, unofficial things, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
as far as Bram Stoker's wife or whoever it was
Yeah.
considered, that was pretty much like the
Continuing
only
on that
legit
story.
sequel. Like they had like everyone had their own
No
versions, but
shit.
that was the closest thing we could consider to an official continuation to Dracula.
I'll be damned. That's I didn't realize. And I know sometimes that can work like that because there's things that sometimes that like even the Tolkien family will probably allow with Lord of the Rings, right? Where it's isn't it part of canon or
Yeah.
whatever. So, but then like they can like not recognize it if they want, or they could, I suppose, either way. But that's cool. So because Bram Stoker's Dracula is amazing.
Oh
Awesome.
yeah.
Good. That's a couple good ones. What is a controversial hot take? And it can be simple as hell, but that you have that hardly anybody agrees with you in, and you're gonna die on that hill.
Um, I wouldn't say it's not one that people don't agree with me, but it's extremely controversial
Hmm.
until I bring up one topic, and then it's amazing how many people side with it.
Hmm.
The whole birth control and abortions.
Hmm.
I always bug people that if they really wanted to focus on that stuff more, why not give out um what's it, like government, not government funded, but government assisted vasectomies? Because
Okay.
there a lot of people, especially like conservatives and whatnot, they try to like do the whole life starts at the womb. That's
Hmm.
that's what the Bible says. But technically, if you read it, the Bible says life starts at the seed. And I'm like, yeah, it's easy for uh well, not easy, but yeah, a chick could get her tube ties, but why is it only the female that's got to take the birth control or get her tube tied and stuff? Like, why not? Hey,
Yep.
you know, make that a thing.
Yeah. I think that's a fair take, and I think that's not at all what I expected. But I'm not surprised that you were bringing up peepees in one way or another.
Uh,
So.
here's another one that I love, that will throw a lot of conservative minded people for a loop. Back to the whole, life starts at the womb. If life
Hmm.
starts at the womb, then wouldn't a woman who's pregnant, wouldn't that be considered child labor? Because they're always trying to say that it's a child. It is in fact a child. That fetus is a child. Okay, so if it's a child, why don't we have better healthcare systems for the mother? Why is the mother even working at all? There's essentially a child in the workplace. Why isn't that
Whole,
rectified?
holy shit! I never even thought
Yeah,
of it like that. I'll be
yeah.
honest with you.
Nobody nobody really does. It takes a while,
That's
but when you think about it, it's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. I know that's one you can step back and kind of go, huh? That's okay. That's yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I used to
Hell yeah.
like I said, I was an idiot, but I did have my moments with some
He's
discussions
like, I
where
got my moments,
yeah,
right?
in high school and even like in my early to mid 20s, I would make a lot of conservative people really upset with the fact that, some of the stuff I was saying. And the funny thing is, I would actually, which that's why I always say don't knock the other side because you never really know. I would have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them come up to me and like apologize, and they'd be like, like I didn't, like I never really thought about it like that. Like it's crazy like that. That does make so much sense. I don't know why we don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
So
think the
it's
best thing for anything, like as we said, is just being able to open that dialogue and having the
exactly
openness to
communication.
listen, yeah, and listen and communicate. I think there's definitely a big lesson, and I think there, and that's something that I think is difficult these days that we just don't see too often. But
Yeah,
no, that's good stuff, man. I didn't expect it to be that grounded, but I appreciate that. That's awesome. So
that's what
no,
I
it's
do.
great. Yeah,
Like I
there you
said,
go.
I have a simple motto in life: if I can't make you laugh and question life, I'm doing something wrong.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love that, dude. All right. Keeping all you've learned, would you rather live forever or rewind time once?
I would say live forever. You would essentially get bored of everything. I would like to rewind time once because there were some things that, good or bad, I would still like to experience. And then there's a lot of moments that you're like, yeah, they got away from me, or even
Mm-hmm.
a moment that didn't get away that you just like, damn, that was a fun moment. Even to just one time, just relive it one time would be nice.
Awesome. Great answer. I like that. All right. And the last one here for you, my favorite, last day on Earth. Tomorrow a
Yes,
meteor's
yes,
going to hit.
I will touch your butt and give you tacos.
Never mind. That's it, everybody. See you later. Uh, last day on Earth. Armageddon, right? Everything's done. Earth is going to explode. You today can choose 5 meal items and then 2 drinks.
Oh man.
Yep.
All right.
Says a lot.
Definitely gotta be up, no, like I brought up earlier.
Yep. There you go. I had a feeling
I
already.
gotta say old school raspberry lemonade from Cracker Barrel,
Oh,
like
that's
from the
one of your
early
drinks?
2000s. Those
Okay.
were
Okay.
delicious. Not
Creamy
too
numbers.
tart, not too sweet, just perfect blend.
Perfect. Okay.
Um,
So we got a meal and a drink or an item and a drink. Okay. Love
I
that.
wanna say you said 2 drinks.
2 drinks. So you got one. Yeah, that's a good one, though.
Um, Probably peach soju. Love peach soju.
Oh, do you? Oh,
Yes.
man. So I need to find some peach soju, is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I got an empty bottle.
Right there. Perfect. That's good stuff.
I
I've
got
had
let me see. Think meal wise. What else? What
Yeah,
else?
it does. Like I said, it doesn't have to be like a full meal. It could be items of a meal. It could be, whatever it is. Think of like a
That
prison meal, basically. An
that
amalgamation of
definitely
what
gotta get a
or
Reese's
a
big
death
cup.
row.
One of those Reese's big cup.
Big
Love
cup.
my
Okay.
Reese's.
Yeah,
Love the
man.
big ones even more.
Yep. Absolutely.
Um
100%. I can't even buy the other ones anymore because the big cups exist. What's the
yeah, and then
point?
they got the one with the lava fudge on the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Those things are especially if you have that with a coffee. Like it'll probably run right through you, but it's delicious as hell. I'm always tempted to just blend them suckers together, just like
Just do
coffee
it.
with one of those lava
Just do
cake
it.
ones.
Fuck it.
I'll probably be in the bathroom all day, but
Yeah. Worth it.
I'm definitely gonna do it. All right, let me see what else. What else?
You got 3.
Uh, Deep fried ice cream. Definitely some deep fried ice cream.
Were you just talking about that recently?
Yeah, actually, I went with my daughter. I think like 2 weeks ago, get some deep
Yeah.
fried ice cream in Choro. I
There you
freaking
go.
love deep fried. It still blows my mind that like yeah, it is covered in a batter and like a breading or even like some places do like the coconut flakes, but it still blows my mind
I
that
know.
it does not like I don't expect it to completely melt, but the fact that they don't plop it on your plate and it's somewhat
I know.
soggy, just
It's one of
that
those
always
things,
gets me.
man. Yeah, it's one of those things like the science how it's gonna work, but it still doesn't compute.
Yeah, Neil
Say I agree.
deGrasse Tyson has to do a whole segment on that thing. 'Cause
Yeah, there you go.
it's
Yeah,
just centuries from now, people are gonna be looking back at that and bet that was mankind's greatest achievement right there.
right. Fried ice cream. That's
They're
right.
gonna be like space travel. They're gonna be like Mass Effect level space travel, and they're just gonna be like fried ice
Fried
cream.
ice cream.
It's gonna be like
Yeah.
the aliens do fried ice cream.
Yep. 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 George Stephanopoulos, whatever.
Right.
Giorgio, whatever. Yeah. All right.
Oh my
Good.
god. Trying to
Good one.
think. Trying to think what else. What else? Oh my god. Um. A pastrami grinder. Definitely. Yeah.
Oh
Definitely a
God.
pastrami grinder with some hot mustard. Got to be
Jesus
some hot
Christ.
mustard.
And now I'm gonna want one of those all day too. I've been wanting pastrami so bad recently too, and or like just a really good like. Even I know corned beef is typically on Rubens, but they do
Oh,
pastrami
that.
Rubens. Fuck.
Yeah. Those two right there. Any one of those two,
Yeah.
I'm set.
Yep.
So maybe with some sauerkraut on top too.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
and then I'd say last but not least, wait, no, how many was that?
Yep. You got one.
Okay.
So this
I
is
want to
last but not
say
least.
a nice Knickerbocker hot dog from New York with everything on there: onions, friggin' beans, ketchup, relish, all that stuff. It would get to the point. I remember it had been a while because we used to go to New York like every other weekend, and we hadn't gotten there for a while. I want to say like 2, 3 years. We haven't gotten there. Like we would still go to New York visit family, but we hadn't gotten to Knickerbocker in a while. And it was always the same hot dog guy. Like we would see him, we'd be hey, have little chit chats and with stuff. And I sat there, and everybody else ordered 4 hot dogs, and I was like, let's start with 8. And then he was like, hey, he's like, well, you always used to eat, a lot as when you were younger. And my mom was like, yeah, let's well, let's start with 4. I was like, okay, well, let's go 4. And as he's making them to me, or making them, like I'm grabbing them, and my mother's handing him uh $1.50, I think it was, it $2 for each hot dog. And as she gives him the money and he's making another one, he turns around and look up, and the hot dog was already gone. He was like,
That's
gee, he's
great.
like, wow, like you definitely
That's
got bigger.
funny.
And I sat there, and I want to say in the course of a minute, the time it took him to take the hot dog out of the cart, put it on the bun, put in, every topping he had. I had already sucked down the previous hot dog. And in a matter of, I want to say like 8, maybe 10 minutes, I went through 6 hot dogs, and I still had 4 more saved for the road.
Holy
And we didn't even
shit.
get that far. I ate 2 of them before we even left Knickerbocker and got to my aunt and uncle's house. And I ate one like an hour later. And then before we left, actually, not even like when we left, we didn't even leave out of New York, didn't even get to jump on the highway. I sucked down that last hot dog.
Damn. So clearly you're a big fan.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've never even, I mean, I never even heard of, I mean, I guess I feel like hot dogs generally are one of those things where like different places or different regions do them, I
It's
guess
it's all
differently,
in the
right?
water. That's the secret. Because a lot of people, they forget that different states
Really?
chlorinate and filter their water differently. So that's why a
Okay.
lot of times when you go visit a family member in a different state, like you drink the water, you notice the tap water tastes
Yeah.
just a little different from yours. And honestly, that's what it is. Because I've known people who will buy the Coney Island hot dogs, and like they'll make them, and they're like, oh, it just like it doesn't taste the same from like when I actually went there. And I tell them, I'm like, it's the water they use. As ridiculous as it sounds, or as simple as it sounds, that's what it is. Every state uses different levels of fluoride and filtration systems and
Sure.
everything, and that's what it is. Just the slight change in mineral in the water is what gives a lot of the food its flavor, and people don't realize it. It's the same thing with um how you got fruits that will grow in different places, but you got blueberries from Florida could be bigger or juicier than the blueberries from California. You get the
Yeah.
mangoes from like Hawaii will be one color, and then the mangoes from Puerto Rico will be a completely different color. That's why it's all the soil and the water and everything from there. Because you could buy that stuff and try to grow it in your state, but it won't taste completely the same.
Right.
It'll be different from the store bought ones you're getting, but it won't taste the same as that mango you had in Arizona or somewhere.
Yeah, and you're right on that too. And I am somewhat familiar about that and don't think about that too often as well too. And I will also say along with that, some states also, Michigan's a big one that is, I think, a little bit more restrictor on some of their health like codes. So that can also, I think, sometimes play effect because you might be able, not be able to add X thing or this thing or whatever as well too. So,
Yeah.
but I think you're right. I think it always starts with like those sort of things like soil and water and stuff like that. So, yeah, right on, man. Okay, so you were a hot dog sucker. Now that I know, I thought Prime was the main guy in
Still
my
am.
in community, but now he's got a somebody to contest with. That's great. Um, awesome. So, well, hey, that's great, man. That's the gauntlet. You were able to
Awesome.
get in the hot seat today. I appreciate that. I just want to say that you've been a member of the B&B kind of community since the get-go, and while I know now it's a lot smaller and tiny, it's pretty quiet. There's really about 6 to 8 of us that are, I would say, active. Probably like 4 or 5 of us that are really
Yeah.
active when we can be. Life has evolved. I think, as I keep saying, as we get farther from the pandemic, because that pandemic time frame, everybody had more time in their hands.
Yeah.
Now we're out and about doing more stuff, so it's harder, and things just change for people, and that's fine too. But you've always been consistent. You've always been a smart ass, funny guy, sharing everything that you can, from nerddom stuff to crazy ass adult theme memes to adding in, a well weighted thought in a conversation. So, I really just want you to know that I appreciate that. I know Dude appreciates that. That support is great, and honestly, the friendship. You're another one of those, as I call, hyper nerds that can match my energy when it comes to that stuff. And matter of fact, I'd even go as far to say is, you're someone who, um, you know, in some ways probably closer matches some of my nerddoms, right? And there are certain things that were like, there's jokes and stuff that only you and I get, or only reference.
Yeah.
There's many things actually that were references that I feel like only you and me get, and which is awesome too, because it always surprises me, just because I like getting to know people so much, how much I still
Mhm.
always need to learn. And that's why I wanted to do this with you, because I knew I was going to learn a lot too. So the trivial stuff's always great. I know, like I said, into the retro stuff too, but your support has always been so awesome, and I really appreciate that. And you're always on top of things like nerddom news and stuff like that. If we're not on it, you're always on that, or a step two, or if there's something going on nerddom wise, you've already got a thought or a comment or something to add on to it, man. And you can't appreciate that. It's been, what, since 2018 when I first met you, and you're still along
Yeah.
for the ride. So, brother,
It's
I,
been a
I
hell of a
appreciate that.
ride.
It
I'm
has
I'm
been. It
enjoying
has been.
being here.
Well, we appreciate it, man. And honestly, I always say it. Whenever it can happen, you ever want to go for a trip and get out and come see the Midwest, Mikasa, man. I got a couch. I got many of them. I've got a bed. So,
Hell yeah.
if ever want to make that work, for
I'm
sure.
I'm
If I ever get your
hopefully
way,
hopefully I know I got some stuff. I'm getting stuff, some finances and stuff situated. This should finally be set by about August. If I keep pushing the hours I get, I'll have things
yeah, yeah,
situated. I'll be able to
holler.
relax. I won't have to be doing the 7 days straight anymore. And I mean I might do it just to grab some get that PTO going because
Yep,
they I just I still manage to use some like not I don't like taking too much if I don't have to, but
I
I
agree.
I ended yesterday was the PTO payout. I had 25 hours of PTO, and then I have I believe my sick time that rolls over. I have like 12 hours of that. So I'm definitely gonna try to see if once things get situated and try to at least do something. I haven't done something in a
Yeah.
while.
Like I said, if you ever want to, like I said, we'll talk about that and we'll plan for that. So, Mikasa, man, I think we'd have a good time hanging out all weekend. So,
Hell yeah.
but yeah, man, appreciate you. And hey, Brian, good to see you. Thanks for popping in, my friend. Outer Multiverse there. Good to see you from the WMC community. So with that, just some housekeeping things with B&B and everything as always. Of course, I start out with, Seven Dungeons. Make sure to check out, our partner over there, Monday nights, tomorrow night, live at 7 p.m., doing all the good D&D goodness that they do with the Shadow Spark Chronicles. There's a lot of things going on with characters. We had a big death in the crew recently, so now they got to play with that. I think actually the next week or two they are going to be off, so I'll make sure to throw that out there. But make sure at least catch up on their stuff on YouTube. You can go through that for hours, even on Spotify, and just listen to them weave a story in the Dungeons and Dragons style. It's pretty amazing. And then, of course, half-ass beer review throughout the week is always dropping something, whether it's a short with yours truly or a video, also with yours truly. Doing all kinds of great stuff. He's getting back to it, so he's getting content out there. Make sure to check out Half-Ass Beer Review on YouTube as soon as you can. And then, for as other stuff that's important, hopefully I'll have some updates for Outpost 93J tonight or tomorrow night. So I got some pictures I got to work with and get ready to put out there and get the story ready for that. So check out my Instagram on that as well too. It's really exciting. I'm having a lot of fun doing that, but I've been so busy I haven't had time. That's because I keep getting toys and I keep doing other pictures and keep playing with my toys here. You should see my desk here. It's paints everywhere and toys everywhere. So that's pretty much my life, living in it, and I love it. So, then of course we got the Great Lakes Beer Festival coming up August 16th. You can catch Banter and Babble, me and the Dude 79, along with Half-Ass Beer Review. We're going to be at the beer festival at the Dow Diamond in Midland, Michigan. We're going to live stream. We're going to record a bunch of stuff. It's going to be a blast. We can't wait to do it. It's something we just love doing at this point. You can get your tickets at the GreatLakesBeerFestival.com. You get them cheaper if you get them online. Get those VIP ones. Get them early. Be there. Let's drink some beer on a Saturday afternoon and have a good time. So make sure to do that. And then lastly, just check out some of the people that hey, that have been fun to work with recently with the World Makers Consortium, Grown Ass Men Toys. Check out their stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of great people in those communities. They got Instagrams. These folks are doing world building. They're doing toy photography. A lot of awesome stuff. Really appreciate some of the work they do and able to answer the questions that I got. And then of course it would behoove me to make sure I also lastly once again mention Truth Beer Consequences for always supporting, hanging out, and doing all the great stuff that they do in the craft beer area there in Cincinnati. So as always, my outros are a mouthful, but you got to make sure to shout out the people that continue to also uplift me. So thank you once again, El Blanco, for doing the show with me. This has been such an absolute pleasure to get to know
Oh
you
yeah,
more and just get a chance to talk to you. I'm gonna let you go so you can get some sleep for your big work shift coming up here. So
that's
just
gonna be a fun one.
yeah, it's gonna be. It doesn't. No, it's not. Don't lie to me.
Yeah.
So, but hey, make sure to check out all the B&B content that we got coming out Wednesday night. We're gonna be back here with Let's Set the Tone Roundtable. We're gonna talk about Last of Us season 2 finale. So, thank you everybody for taking the time to pop in here, listen to it. Please like, comment, share it,
Whichever way that's going.
subscribe. Yeah, whatever. It's scrolling one way. I can't even tell either. So, but thank you all. Take care, and we will see you real soon.